Hey everybody, I'm Ivonix, and this is a case of distrust. So, Connor Green is dead, and we are trying to find his killer now. So, in order to find Green's killer, I had to prove that somebody had the means, the motivation, and the opportunity for murder. Anyone connected to the case was a possible suspect. Alright, so we're at the police station. So now I gotta go and, go talk to people and try to figure out what happened. Let's go back to the Tin Spoon Lounge first, because of course Tiny Paul is like who I fucking suspect. He's the most obvious suspect, but well, let's see. Green had been killed outside the Tin Spoon. I could go back there. I could go there to look for clues of his murder. Of course, because Tiny Paul is the most obvious suspect, he's probably not going to be the it. So I hailed a driver. Blah blah blah. Okay, let's talk to him as usual. I began speaking with the driver, and our conversation came to airships. You hear about this Zeppelin fella? He asked. The crazy German thinks he can run transatlantic flights. The Allies won't let him build any dirigibles now, but I say, give the man a shot. We spoke about the first transatlantic flights and how he saw airships as the traveled future. My head was in the clouds when I stepped out of the taxicab at my destination. I brought my thoughts back to San Francisco and continued on the case. Oh, the humanity. I arrived again at the old warehouse turned speaky, its wooden sign still barely holding on to the frame of the building. Wrapped my knuckles on the same metal door. Instead of the usual dark eyes, the door swung open to reveal Fred Grant. He let out a, "PC! Good seeing ya!" with more whiskey on his breath than the fire breather. He stumbled down the next few steps and I caught his limp body. "All loose ends tied up," he said, winking at me while he tried to stand tall. "Through the doorman in the back of the wagon," he continued. "He says nobody came in or out from the upstairs billiards hall last night." A hiccup interrupted Grant's thought. "You know, I believe him, but the Bulls need someone to work on, and putting welts on this goon will make the afternoon go faster." Wow. He again tried to stand upright. Failing at that, he stumbled to the police car, got behind the wheel, let the sirens loose, and drove the machine around the corner. Wow. Drunk driving. It's like that cab he was complaining about. I continued up the stairs to find a similar scene as the day before, only Tiny Paul had been replaced by a young woman, idly playing with a deck of cards scattered across the billiards table. Well, let's look around before we talk to her. I mean, I'm guessing this is all just the same shit we saw before. The balls were gone from the billiards table. In their place were some betting chips and cards strewn across the felt. I counted 5 aces, 2 aces of hearts. Alright. Oh, wait. Okay. I could see the tears welled in the girl's eyes. "Who are you, lady?" I approached the young woman and looked her up and down. I studied her face. She was in her early 20s and was naturally pretty, with deep eyes, shimmering black hair, and big, rouged lips, though holding back tears somewhat twisted her face. I cleared my throat. And she turned around. "Oh," she said, "I didn't hear anybody after that officer left." "Why were you crying?" I asked. Her lower lip wavered a little, but she managed to stop it before any tears could get through. "It's that copper who was just here. First, he asked about Green." "What do you know about Green?" "Well, from all the coppers, I learned he died last night, though I heard nothing in here. Maybe I was already asleep then, I'm not sure. But I don't think we could have heard a shot through all the racket." Why were you here?" I pressed. "I'm Ella Smith. I work nights as a backing singer. I came upstairs after the show ended. I realized she was related to the Green case, at least partially. I had to pump her for more information." Accuse Ella Smith at first meeting her. Let's ask her about notes and crap. Okay, evidence. Yeehaw. Where's Paul? "Where's Tiny Paul?" I asked. "I need to see him. Paul's likely as tired as I am. After the band finished downstairs, we all came up to play poker. Paul and the boys were at it the entire night, so I assume he's at home. I asked if she knew where Paul's home was, and she shook her head. No, Paul and I aren't close." Contradict? Maybe? Nobody'd gone home. Maybe? Maybe? I don't know. Let's see. Okay. Nope. That was not correct. Alright. Let's ask her about something else. What's with all the cards on the table? These cards you're fiddling with, I said. Are they the same ones that the boys were playing with last night? She said they were. Okay. Someone was cheating. 5 aces. So green was killed with a 45. Green was found close to the tin spoon. Green was killed around midnight, I told her. Do you remember anything from then? She turned red in an instant. Midnight was the time I sang all by myself to the crowd up here. She turned red, did she? How do you know it was midnight, I asked. Well, last New Year's Eve, at exactly midnight, me and Lil Fanny, you know, our lead, did a swell duet for the boys. They wanted to hear it again, but she wasn't around to sing it, so I did it alone. Well, Fanny wasn't around, I asked. But the doorman says nobody from the billiards room left the joint. Ella shrugged. Maybe she was in the toilets? I didn't go looking for her. Look, I never got to sing lead. They don't like us Chinese girls doing that, so I took my chance. How could I turn it down? She asked. Well, anyhow, after that song is when I really downed some gin. I didn't much like it, but they said it was good for me, and I was riding high with everyone watching. I don't remember much after that. I thanked her for the tip. So you claim you were in here at midnight? I asked. That's right, she said. Okay. I nodded and asked her about something else. Green was killed with a 45. How did you not hear that? Do you know anybody who had a gun that could kill Green? I asked. She looked at me puzzled. I explained myself. Miss, I'm just a private detective looking into the matter. I need to follow up with everyone. She looked surprised when I said private detective, but she didn't comment on it further. She chuckled at my question. I don't know if you know this, but, well, this place is a type of gangster hideout. No one in the band has shooters, of course, but just about everybody else in the building is carrying something. That was of no help in narrowing my list of suspects down, but I nodded my understanding. You don't carry a gun yourself, I asked. She shook her head. No, ma'am. No shooters in the band. She seemed adamant on that point. Alright, so don't think we have anything to contradict with that yet. Oi. Well, I guess now we can ask her about herself a little bit. Why were you crying? Or holding back tears? I said I'd know she'd been crying and asked her why. It's that copper who was just here. He kept wanting me to feed him drinks, and the more I put in him, the more fresh he got with me. She heaved a sigh. It's not your fault, I said. Of course it isn't, she exclaimed. All men are brutes, but I can't exactly slip away from a copper. Anyhow, I'm just frantic because of the booze. I'm sure it'll wear off. She turned her gaze back to the cards on the table. She was putting up a strong mask, but I could tell something about Grant's interaction had rattled her. The truth is, most women wear a mask in public. Almost every one of us has a story about being mistreated or worse. Me too. What else do you want to know? Ask about the fact that she's Chinese. I mean... Your parents are Chinese? Smith sighed. I don't even know my parents, and I can't speak Chinese. I was raised at the Occidental Board Mission House in the one orphanage that takes Chinese kids, but nobody adopts an Oriental. She said that last word with an obvious disgust. Over half the kids my age die as infants. We're the unwanted. She paused and looked down at her feet. I waited for her to continue, but she didn't say anything else. I guess we could ask her about, Fanny. Mrs. Green. I asked if Green's wife sang here under the pseudonym Lil Fanny. Ella Smith nodded. Okay, alright, that does not yield anything useful. Kinda wondering if that's all I'm gonna get out of here for now until I learn more stuff, so... yeah, we'll go somewhere else. Head back to the shop. And let's go to Green's house first. Go here. taxi cab and was on my way. I thought about chatting with the driver to pass the time, sure. After a conversation with the driver, a young man who was a former journalist in Tennessee. Tried to change the place with my reports, he said, with a slight twang. Left as soon as I saw that'd be impossible. What change did you have in mind, I asked. Well, he cleared his throat. I was a staunch believer in democracy, but my old state got its lawman, John Butler. It sells snake oil as far as I'm concerned. He wants to outlaw teaching evolution to children. I tried to fight it, show people he was insane, but it seems like his law will pass. How does this con man know more than a scientist? That's just one example, but it's damn tyranny of the 51%. Argue that dogmocracy is good, or agree that it ain't. Well, come on, democracy, the will of the people is the best governing solution we got. It might not be perfect, but it's better than being ruled by kings or aristocrats. The driver shook his head. The will of the people gets dangerous if people don't know what they're talking about. We're just swayed by the loudest talker. If more than half of people say black is white, does that make it so? The taxi pulled up to our destination. This cab is a dictatorship, and I say you've got to get out now, so I can grab another customer. He winked and I exited. Alright, Mrs. Green. I came upon the greenhouse and knocked on the door. This time Mrs. Green opened it quickly, so she's not blazed out of her mind. Miss Malone, she panted with a noticeable shock in her eyes. I'm just frightened about people knocking at my door, she said by way of explanation. After what happened to my husband, everything feels so cold. Oh, I'm blabbering. Please come inside. She led the way to 2 chairs and we sat down. She was more awake than the previous day, but her hair was a bit tousled and her S's hung in the air long enough to belie her lack of complete sobriety. I get it. Have you found anything about my husband's killer? She asked. He shook my head for the moment. Replied that there was nothing definitive just then. I said I would need to ask her some questions that might spark the investigation. She straightened in her chair and replied with certainly. Okay, let's see. So let's begin with those statements about, Green dying outside the close to the tin spoon. What were you doing last night, I asked. Her expression was surprised, but I told her that I just need to place everyone in their locations, Mrs. Green, to get a full picture of the evening. Of course, she said. Let's see. I was singing with the band. The show ending at about 10 o'clock. Then we went up into the billiard hall. Oh, it haunts me that Connor was so close when he was killed, she winced, but none of us heard anything with how loud we were and how sealed that building is. How late were you in the pool room, I asked. Until early in the morning, say 2 or 3. No one came in or out of the billiard hall, according to Fred Grant. Well, this says around the time Green was murdered, and 2 or 3 would have been later than that, but let's see. Okay, nope, alright. That did not go. That's funny. But Ella Smith said Fanny wasn't at the pool hall at midnight. One of your backing singers claims you left the upstairs room before midnight, I said from my notes. That's not true, she said defiantly. I was there the entire evening. She seemed quite sure, Mrs. Green. She sang to the drunken boys without you there. But I asked our doorman, Miss Malone. He says nobody left the upstairs room. You're doing your own digging, I asked. She blushed. I just have no confidence in the police. Anyhow, if nobody came from upstairs, that eliminates anyone in the pool room. I must have been in the restroom if Ella isn't certain I wasn't with them at the exact time, because I could not have been outside. Alright. Let's ask her about more stuff. Let's ask about the gun. Onyx, nothing out of her with that? Okay. She has nothing to say about that. Let's ask her about the fact they were going to St. Louis, or planning to go to St. Louis. Seems your husband was from St. Louis, I put to her. She squirmed but said nothing, so I pressed her. Mrs. Green, I'm investigating his death. You're right, she said. He had told me he was from out east, though he lied to everyone else. He claimed he had to flee from his past. I never asked the details, so that's all I know, and you're the first person I've told. He also had 2 train tickets to get there, I continued. He wanted to return. Well, those tickets have no date printed on them. She paused, looked at me from underneath long lashes, and continued. He was thinking of going back there. I guess whatever trouble he had was blowing over. But I refused. I told him I wanted to stay in San Francisco. Whenever Connor and I quarreled, a sharp wavering inhale cut off her sentence. Well, he kept them around to brandish, to show me that he loved me and that he stayed here only for me. I nodded and we spoke about something else. Okay, now let's ask about how his entire past is, like, fake. Okay, so I will just bring up the St. Louis stuff again. Let's accuse her of having a drinking problem. Motioned the bottles on the ground. Yes, I'd make a terrible housemate, she said. It's hard for a working girl. You understand, in many ways I did, but my clutter was less inebriating, and I told her so. Sometimes the vocal cords need a little lubrication, she smiled. That's a whole lot of lubrication. Let's ask about the fact that, Connery was suspicious about Redstone Stable for some reason. Your husband suspected Redstone Stable of interfering with his business. She sobbed. I know, the police told me the details this morning. That Connor had gotten a letter, that he'd begun bootlegging again, that he thought a man named Redstone Stable was after him for it. It seemed they had told her everything. I turned the conversation to a different angle. Okay. Nothing's really getting us anywhere. You tell her the letter was fake, though. The letter that your husband received had a small black hand on it. That hand, I explained, is a symbol of the notorious Black Hand gang. Mrs. Green's eyes went wide. Yes, but I continued, it was a fake. The Black Hand doesn't run this far west. So who wrote it then, she asked. I told her that I thought her husband had written the letter, and that I thought his bootlegging scheme was a bust. He also had those tickets to St. Louis. I think his plan was to fake his death and use me as a cover while running back home. She sighed. I don't know about his dealings, Malone. Some relationship you had. Okay, I'm not sure what else to ask about at the moment, so we're gonna go see Redstone Stable. That is a sad-looking plant. Alright, Stable's barbershop. Yep, let's go talk to our old Al Stable, the man with the plastic smile. Talk. As I glanced towards the driver, I spotted a strange device attached to his windshield. Rectangular mirror, about 3 inches tall and 7 inches wide. It was held by a metal bracket. Ask about the mirror. He looked at me through it without needing to turn around. See how I can see you? He asked. I can also see that bull behind us. I turned in my seat and saw a police wagon a block behind us. It's called a cop spotter, he continued as I turned back to the mirror. Sold by this fella Burger. Works pretty well for knowing when to bend the law. Might be a good tool for bootleggers, I offered as we arrived at my destination. He turned around for the first time with a wide grin. Yes, it might be. I smiled and leapt back and left the taxi cab. Oh boy. Small bell above the door twinkled and I walked in. Hey, he's not all standing up straight here anymore. Hello? Oh, it's not him. There was a man seated in the barber chair, tapping his foot and staring at me. I didn't see Stable anywhere. Let's talk to him. Who are you then? He stared at me with a grin that extended to his eyes. He was wearing a barber's cape, which told me he was there for a haircut. I wondered why Stable had left this man mid-trim. Asked how he's doing. Swell, he answered. Yes, very swell indeed. Thank you, miss. His words came out as jovial as his expression, and they held a slight but affable southern tint. A few more pleasantries returned equally verbose responses with no meat to them. Piqued my interest. A stranger in Stable's barber chair with no sign of Stable around. Who are you? I asked with genuine curiosity. I'm merely a mortal man enjoying my life at this very moment, he replied, looking me up and down, and there is much to enjoy. I laughed in response. The old guy was getting fresh with me. His smile widened at my laugh. Glad that some flappers know how to take a compliment, he said. Most modern girls get their stockings knotted whenever someone calls them pretty. I agree or I disagree. Let's disagree with him. I disagreed. Sometimes those compliments can become uncivil. We can't have gentlemen getting out of line. I suppose that's true, he laughed. Yes, indeed, that is true. Well, my name is Ray Carter, regular jazz bassist at the Tin Spoon Lounge. Aha! A speakeasy in North Beach. It's my pleasure to meet you, miss. He worked at the Tin Spoon. That surprised me. Were you there last night? I asked. Until early this morning, he gleamed. I won a bucket of change at the poker table. Just about everyone was saying they never saw someone play cards so well. Sometimes you get lucky, I suppose. He was the one cheating with the spare ace. Good heavens. I wondered if he was at all related to this case. I was glad he was smiling. An upbeat suspect eased any harsh questions. He saw me taking notes and asked, "And are you some sort of continental operative?" When I nodded, he let out a whistle and said, "A woman detective. Well, that's almost as swell a sight as a black man in a white man's barber chair. I can accuse Ray Carter." Oh dear. Let's ask him about that card game, eh? "How much did you win last night?" I asked him. "Oh, a heap of it," he grinned. "And how many aces did it take you to get there?" His face showed genuine surprise. "And how many aces did Tiny Paul think were in that deck?" I poked further. "Now look here," he growled. "Tiny Paul is a mean-spirited, no-good, black-hating son of a bitch. He pays us pennies but wants us to be good and smile for him. Well, I'm not having that, miss. No, I'm not having that at all." Yes, I took him for a ride, and I feel no remorse for it. In some ways, it's all part of the game. I said that was alright, but Tiny Paul might see it differently. Now you would not tell him, would you?" I might have to if you don't tell me what I want to know. He sighed. "What is it you want, miss? Surely you must want something." I was glad he knew the score. "I want to know where Stable is," I told him. Stable was here, congenial and unhurried. Then he received a telephone call and said he had to check on something at his Tanforan racetrack. He told me to just sit tight until he returned, and here we are. So Stable had gone to his horses. Another lead that would need chasing. "You know," he continued, "I bet I had no reason to cheat last night. Not with the way Ellie kept distracting him. Yes, he was very distracted indeed." I raised a questioning brow. "Ella Smith and Tiny Paul have something going on? That girl throws herself onto him like she'd throw water on a fire." More stuff to ask Ella about, I guess. I guess I'll ask him about, the whole murder and all that. "Green died around midnight," I put to him. I was inside all night, and the band, yeah, okay, so he doesn't really... We heard no shots in that racket, so he doesn't really say anything about that. So Green was killed with a .45. He's probably just going to confirm maybe what Ella Smith said and say that no one in the band carries guns. Or maybe he won't. "Did you have an access to the gun the Green was shot with?" I asked him. "A black man with a cannon?" He laughed. "Miss, if I held one in the Tin Spoon, I would lose more than my job. Much, much more than my job. Those boys do not treat me like they do you, pretty lady. I like to keep my neck, so no, I do not carry one, nor do I know where to get one." Okay, alright, so that goes in line with what Ella said about the band not carrying guns. Let's ask him about what, Redstone Stable saying that he doesn't, bootleg. See if that's something he knows anything about. Okay, no, he doesn't know anything about that. Alright, in that case, we'll leave him be for now. I can always come back later with more questions. Drown Stable's shop. Is there anything... There isn't anything else... Yeah, I've already looked at all this stuff, so... Front door had a bell on top of it. I guess we'll go to the racetrack and talk with a stable there. Near San Bruno. I could ride over there to talk with him. I grabbed a taxi cab and told the driver where I wanted to go. I thought about talking with him on our way, as usual. "I love this job," he told me as we turned the corner of Polk and Bush streets. "I used to work in a plant across the bay with my two brothers. You know how boring that gets? Bang this, push that. What a life. We weren't made for factories." "Sure, they get paid more. They're part of a union, but they have good pensions, but they can't beat this," he said, revving his engine. Such freedom. We spoke about his love of the open road until we reached my destination. Alright. The Tanforan racetrack had reopened the previous year with the help of millionaire Adolf Spreckles and some associates, one of whom was Stable. Today no races were ongoing, and the sheer size of the empty grounds and the grandstand were impressive. That is pretty impressive. I hopped the lock turnstile and wandered the grandstands and some of the grounds, but all my searching turned up nothing and nobody, not even Stable. I turned near to the entrance to search for more clues. Oh, okay. Oh, fascinating. Garbage can? I removed the trash bin's lid to let my hands play with something while my thoughts had time to form, but peering in I saw the biggest break in the case thus far. An automatic pistol, .45 caliber, was right on top of the pile. I reached in to get a closer look. That's a wonderful place to stash a murder weapon, right? Shit. Oh! A throat cleared behind me. I pocketed the weapon quickly, then turned around to Stable's smug grin. Have you come to watch the horses? He asked. Rumor says that running through fire will be the victor, though at times it can be dangerous to put stock in rumors. Accuse him immediately. No. Ask him about notes. Statements. Yeah, let's talk to him a little bit before we bring up the gun. Why'd you? Oh, nope. Why'd you run to your racetrack? Red Carter told me something interesting, I put to him. He says you got a wire from somebody and rushed out, leaving him mid-tren. For the first time, I saw Stable frown. Well, business and pleasure sometimes mix, Miss Malone. Yes, I was telephoned for a maintenance issue, but that's all sorted. That's now all sorted. Where were you at midnight? I told him that Connor Green was found near the Tin Spoon. The coroner reported this time around midnight. That is a late hour, Stable said. Miss Malone, I'm always fast asleep in my bed at that time of night. So nobody was there with you? No, I was alone. In response to my raised eyebrow, he continued, I would never lie to you, Miss Malone. Of course, it would be just as difficult for you to disprove my story as it would be for me to prove it, and we live in a civilized nation that requires your proof, not mine. Stable might have had the opportunity to kill Green, but I'd have to first place him concretely. I assure you, he said, I was at home asleep at the time. Let's not contradict him at the moment. Green was killed with a .45. You wouldn't have known anything about a .45, would you, dude? Green was shot last night, I told him. Any chance you... I'm not the sort to be associated in any way with a pistol. Contradict. Evidence. Gun. I found an automatic in your trash bin. This .45 is a gangster caliber. What are the chances it's the same one that killed Green? Stable frowned again. I was beginning to like his frowns. So it seems to me, I continued, that your boys found the murder weapon in the trash, then called you around to see what to do about it. Yes, he admitted, I was telephoned to look at the weapon. We were about to phone the police about it when I noticed you wandering the grounds. Why were you so interested in the Green case, and why is this gun here? He sighed. Do you remember, Miss Malone, that Connor Green had already attempted to frame me? Once I learned of his death, I thought that whomever killed him would also try to blame me. I invited Carter for a trim in exchange for information about the murder, and I told my associates to watch for anything suspicious at the racetrack. Why would... If Carter said he was upstairs, like, playing and playing poker all night, how'd he know of anything about the murder? As soon as the gun was found, they telephoned me, and here we are. So you still won't admit to the murder, I pushed him. Think what you want, Miss Malone, but I had no reason to kill Connor Green, and if you think otherwise, you're just playing into the game set up by the real killer. That was the story Stable was sticking with. Still, I was much further along than I had been, and that gave me a reason to smile. Okay, well, I mean, I could just be playing into someone trying to frame him. That's true enough. If he's insisting it wasn't him, I mean, so it's like, for him, yeah, we've got means and opportunity, but, I guess we don't have motive for him, really. So, let's ask him what he thinks the motive might be. Green already thought you had it out for him, I said. What if he had good cause to think that? Wouldn't his bootlegging scheme put you under? Miss Malone, Stable smiled. I assure you, I do no illegal rum running. Green's story was simply a ruse. Have you not discovered that yet? I had no reason to murder Green whatsoever. Yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring. I'm not really convinced it's him, just because, I mean, putting the fucking murder weapon right on top of a trash can, that's just fucking stupid, so... Well, I'm gonna leave him be for the moment. I'll look at this stuff around here. I mean, there's probably nothing, really of interest. Watch him middle turnstile. Okay, let's leave. So we've now, like, done a first round of questioning with everyone, so... I think I'm gonna quickly go to Southern Coffee and talk with Frankie, and then, we'll see what happens from there. I'll talk with a cab driver. Talk with weather and not much else. Sometimes taxi cab drivers mean poor conversation partners. Okay. Alright. Hey, oh, what's that? Yellow newspaper was flopped on the counter. It was the sports section dated June 1st, 1887. It read, Browns continue dominant play, ending May with 21-2 record after a Herculean 2 games thrown on the same day by pitcher Conway. Okay. Hey, Frankie. At the bar if I was stuck on the case. What's that? Oh. Oh, that's the bottle with the password on it, or the poem. Alright, let's talk with Frankie. I sat down at the bar and summarized my night for Frankie, including what Shipman had told me this morning. Frankie's eyebrows raised in shock throughout the story. He was attentive and asked many questions. Shook his head in disbelief as I finished the story. This is some case, so you think you'll go through with it? I told him I thought I would. He sighed. I don't know, Malone. These Egan's rats sound dangerous. You sure you know what you're doing? I answered with a stern look. Well, alright, just let me know if you need it, if you can help with anything. Let me know if I can help with anything, alright. Now what does he think the motive might be? To find a reason for someone wanting Green dead, I said to Frankie. He's part of Egan's rats, that might be a reason enough for someone to bump him off. Malone, be careful, they're notorious out east. If they're here now, he trailed off. I nodded. Alright, let's ask him about something else. Green was found close to the tin spoon. Right, you caught me up on that. Oh yeah, wait, so I told him everything? Now you just have to discover who was near that speakeasy last night. I'm not sure you should be getting so close to these mob dealings. I can handle my own, Frankie, I told him. That's good to hear. What else did you want to talk about? Well, found that gun. I found this gun on Stable's racetrack grounds, I said to Frankie. He raised his brows in amazement. So you think that could be the murder weapon? That could point to Stable as the killer. I nodded, but still need more information. Got anything else, Frankie ended? Well, alright, I've clicked through quite a few things, but Frankie has not had anything helpful to add to the conversation. So, I mean, I'm guessing I'm just gonna have to, like, go through, like, in rounds, talking to the suspects more as I learn more things from each of them. But, it seems like it'd be too convenient for it to be Tiny Paul or Redstone Stable. I guess it wouldn't really surprise me if it was, wouldn't surprise me if it was Mrs. Green, you know? But, at this point, who knows? We'll save more, going around talking to the suspects for another video because I'm gonna end this one here. But for now, thanks for watching. Until next time.